What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue with our 2025 college football predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Up next is the Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State coming off a great year last year, making it all the way to the college football playoff semifinal, and then also making it into the Big Ten championship. Of course, they lost that game, but it was actually a pretty good year for Penn State last year. Can they live up to those expectations in 2025? Well, before we get into the actual prediction for this team, just my thoughts about this Penn State team. I mean, you look at overall in the roster, a lot of experience, especially on the offensive side of the football. I think this is going to be a really good Penn State team. This has a chance to be one of the top 5 teams in the country. Now, I don't know if they can still, beat Ohio State or not, but again, just looking at this team, Drew Aller is back at quarterback. Obviously, that's a big return there, definitely in the passing game. And they added a couple of nice additions at wide receiver in the transfer portal. Obviously, that was huge because they didn't really have a big passing attack from last year. But you look at the running back position, I think this team is going to be running the football pretty well this year. I think, you got one of the best 1-2 punches at running back. You got K'Ron Allen coming back, and you also got Nicholas Singleton. One of the best 1-2 punch at running backs mainly in the country coming up in 2025. So yeah, I think this offense is going to be much better compared to last year. And then defensively, they do lose some key players on the defensive line. That might be the only position that I'm concerned about for Penn State. But yeah, this secondary overall should be pretty talented, but they should be able to fill some holes there on the defensive line. So again, this is a very experienced Penn State team, and they could probably be one of the top ranked teams in the country this year just because of that experience. But let's now get to the schedule for 2025, and here is that full schedule for Penn State. And again, they were 13-3 last year in 2024, so let's go game by game, and I'll give you my official prediction for this Penn State team for 2025. And really, their first 3 games are pretty easy. From August 30th to September 13th, they will play Nevada, FIU, and Villanova. These are all 3 games that Penn State should be able to win pretty easily. I'm going to say they win by like 20 plus points, so I think they win, and they start off 3-0 fairly easily, and then they get ready for Big Ten play. They'll actually get a bye week before opening up Big Ten play, and it's a big one. It's against Oregon at home on September 27th, and I did my Oregon video already. I've already picked Penn State to win this game, and like I said, playing at home, it's kind of tough to go against Penn State when they're playing at home. I know they've lost some big games at home in the past, and I do think Oregon does have a big opportunity here to get a win here, but I think Penn State, the mentality is that they are out for revenge on the Ducks here because they lost the Big Ten championship game from last year. Now, last year they did not play each other in the regular season, but this year they will. So yeah, Penn State definitely kind of, is favoring, they're kind of favored in this one just because they're playing at home. And I do trust Drew Aller a little bit more than also Dante Moore. So yeah, Penn State I think gets the win here. I think it's a fairly close, low-scoring type game. And I think that also that bye week kind of helps out just to get them prepared, and also what they did wrong last year in the Big Ten championship. So I think Penn State beats Oregon here, and I got them now improving to 4-0 going into the month of October. Next, they play UCLA on the road on October 4th, a UCLA team that I think could be a little bit better this year. Obviously, Nico Amaliava coming in, the transfer from Tennessee. Could that really help here for UCLA? That's kind of a tough question to answer, but I just don't think UCLA is going to have the roster to really defeat a top 5 team in Penn State. I mean, this probably could be like some sort of an early trap game for Penn State just because it's their first true road game. But I think Penn State definitely will take care of business. Maybe they get off to a slow start after coming off that physical game against Oregon the last week. And I think Penn State gets the win. So I think they win it by at least 14 or 17 points. It's not a blowout, but I think Penn State definitely will win. They're clearly the better team. And so I got the Nittany Lions improving to 5-0. Next, they play Northwestern at home on October the 11th. A lot of new faces on this Northwestern team. Don't know how good they're going to be. And yeah, Penn State playing at home, they definitely will take care of business. So I think this one will not be even close. And I got Penn State improving to 6-0. Next, they play Iowa on the road on October 18th. When it comes to Iowa, it's not a very, easy game when you're playing at Iowa against the Hawkeyes. This Iowa team definitely has the roster capable of pulling off an upset here. But this Iowa team, you look at the roster, I do like the starting lineup on both sides of the football, but I don't think their offense is going to be very explosive. And this is a team that is not going to probably score a ton of points on this Penn State defense. This could definitely be one of those low-scoring defensive battles, and it could be one of those low over and under type games, probably at like 37.5 or something like that. It's just going to be a low-scoring defensive battle, but I think Penn State definitely clearly has the better offense. They should be able to score some points, mainly in the second half. I think the depth is definitely an issue there for the Hawkeyes, so that's why I kind of do have some concerns about Iowa. Now, it wasn't that long time ago, like I think it was like actually 4 years ago, maybe 3, where Penn State lost on the road at Iowa, but that's where Iowa had some depth on their roster, but this time they don't, so I think Penn State, they'll definitely take care of business in the second half. I think running the football probably will be the difference, and I think Drew Allar also kind of makes some plays late in this game, so I think Penn State, they beat Iowa here on the road. I'm going to say they, beat them by at least a couple of touchdowns, and I got Penn State improving to 7-0. They get another bye week, their second bye week before playing on the road at Ohio State on November 1st. I did pick the Buckeyes to win this game. It's kind of hard to go against the Buckeyes when they're playing in Columbus, but again, I would not be shocked here if Penn State actually pull off the upset this year, because maybe this is their year. Penn State has a veteran roster, and they definitely have a lot more experience than Ohio State, but again, the talent of Ohio State, the physicality of them, and also I think Ohio State definitely will be better by this time, because Julian Sayin probably will get better as a quarterback as they go in late into the season. But yeah, I think this is a close game. It definitely can go like two different ways. It could be a shootout, or it could be a low-scoring defensive battle. I think it's going to be a defensive game, though. I think it really comes down to who has the better defense, but I got to go with Ohio State here just because they're playing at home. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Nittany Lions did pull off the win here, because if they probably pull off this win, then Penn State likely can probably go 12-0, but I think Ohio State is going to win this game, so I got the Buckeyes winning and also giving Penn State their first loss of the season. That puts them now at 7-1. Then they come back at the next week. They'll play at home against Indiana on November 8th. This will not be an easy game here for Penn State. Indiana last year was a very big surprise team. I definitely could see them being a top 15 team this year, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if Penn State did start off slow in this game, but I think this is a game that probably will be close in the first half. Second half, maybe Penn State can probably pull away, or maybe it goes into the fourth quarter, and then Penn State probably comes up with a big turnover, and at the end of the day, they probably win by 17, or, win by 7 or 10 points, somewhere in that point range. But yeah, Indiana's going to be a team that's not going to give Penn State definitely, a reason to, blow them out. I think Penn State actually will have a pretty tough time in this one, especially coming off a physical game against Ohio State the last week. But at the end of the day, I think Penn State playing at home, they beat Indiana here, again, by 7 or 10 points, somewhere in that point range. I would not be shocked, though, if Indiana did pull off the upset here, because it's off of a physical game against Ohio State the last week, and you never know. Some of these teams come in the next week, they come in all beat up, and they just have flat performances, so I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State did slip up in this one. But next, they play Michigan State on the road on November 15th. Michigan State could be a little bit improved from where they were last year. I mean, obviously, it's a team that, brought in, some additions in the transfer portal. They definitely could be a little bit improved, but not enough improved to where they can beat a top 5 team in Penn State. I just don't think they're quite on that level just yet of, beating some of the talented teams in the country. So I think Penn State beats Michigan State here. I think I'm going to say by like 14 or 17 points, and it's kind of similar to the UCLA game. It's not a blowout, but they win by at least double digits. Next, they play Nebraska at home on November 22nd. A Nebraska team, that has their starting quarterback coming back. We saw how good of a quarterback he was as a freshman and everything. But, Matt Rule has kind of proven that he definitely belongs here at Nebraska. Last year, they were a pretty solid team. But, Penn State, again, playing at home, that kind of does favor them here in this one. Maybe Nebraska kind of gives Penn State a little bit of problems in the first few minutes. But I think Penn State definitely should be able to win this one. You look back to last year, Nebraska at Ohio State. Nebraska really was right there with Penn, Ohio State till the fourth quarter, but they were not able to come up with the win. So yeah, Penn State, I think playing at home, they get it done. Maybe it's a close game in the first half. Maybe it's close in the first half, but then Penn State will pull away in the second half. They win this one by at least like 14 or 17 points. And then they close things out at Rutgers on November 29th. The Scarlet Knights are going to be a team that's going to want to run the football. And this is also a Penn State team that will definitely run the football. So it definitely comes down to whoever the better running attack team is. And I think that definitely is Penn State, because Rutgers lost their top running back from last year. So I think Penn State does take advantage of the running game. And they'll also hit some big pass plays against the secondary of the Scarlet Knights. So I think Penn State does win this one. Maybe it's close in the first half, but second half, the Nittany Lions will pull away with their running game. And I think Nicholas Singleton and Kyron Allen are going to make a difference here in this game as well. So I got Penn State finishing with a record of 11-1. So that's my prediction here for Penn State for 2025. With this record, it probably does get them into the college football playoff and then also into the Big Ten championship, because, even if they lose to Ohio State, they're going to still probably make it to the Big Ten championship, but it probably does depend on the head-to-head matchup. But yeah, Penn State, they probably, will lose to Ohio State, but wouldn't be surprised if they probably slip up somewhere else. Maybe they slip up against Oregon and go 10-2, or they probably slip up against Indiana. It would definitely be a big shock if Penn State probably finishes 9-3. That would definitely be a disappointing year, because that's not going to be enough to make it to the college football playoff. But yeah, this is a very experienced Penn State team. I think they're definitely a top 5 team this year in 2025. Do you guys agree or disagree with this prediction? 11-1. I think their best case is probably going undefeated at 12-0, and then worst case probably 10-2. But I don't know if they can go undefeated. But 11-1 is what I'm going to go with here for Penn State. And also give me your prediction for this Penn State team down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.